Welcome back to my channel, Down the Rabbit Hole News. I'm the Rabbit, guys. We have the Shannon Sharpe and Gabriella Zuniga lawsuit. I thought we would review it on this video. Let's get into it right now. So, official lawsuit, again, it was filed in Clark County, Nevada, or in the 8th Judicial District Court of the state of Nevada in and for the county of Clark. And this is what it is. She is a Jane Doe. And as listed, her attorneys are there, which is Micah D. Nash and Buzbee. Okay. Lawsuit starts 14 pages. It's not too bad. So plaintiff Jane Doe complains of defendant Shannon Sharpe and for cause of action would respectfully request this honorable court the following. Introduction. A woman can say yes to consensual sexual relations with a man 99 times, but when she says no, even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely failed to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating, controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and raped plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a 56-year-old former NFL superstar. He claims to be one of the most successful sports media personalities in the country. Plaintiff is a young woman in her early 20s. In 2023, plaintiff was working out at a gym in Los Angeles, California, when Sharpe approached her for the first time. Previously, Doe had noticed that Sharpe watching her during her workouts. At this time, Doe was just 19 years old. So she was 19 years old when she met Shannon Sharpe. I think that that's important to put out there. I was under the impression that she was 22 when they met, but here it says that she's 19. At that time, she did not know who he was, only that he was another older man oogling at her at the gym. Doe could tell Sharpe was much older than her. She found him physically intimidating. Eventually, he introduced himself. At his determined insistence, she gave him her number. Over the next couple of weeks, Sharpe insistently pursued plaintiff. He constantly approached her at the gym, attempted to contact her frequently with phone calls and text messages asking her to meet up. Unwilling to take no for an answer, eventually, plaintiff gave in and agreed to meet with Sharpe outside of the gym. However, before doing so, Sharpe demanded that Doe sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, something plaintiff found a bit concerning. I don't even know if I knew what an NDA was at the age of 19. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. But it sounds like she was given an NDA. At the age of 19, I don't think I would have known what that is. Okay. She refused. Despite his repeated efforts to get her to sign, she refused time and again. Eventually, he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. What followed was the beginning of a rocky consensual relationship that lasted nearly 2 years. The relationship was very unequal. Sharpe is more than 30 years older, is considerably wealthier, physically much larger, exponentially stronger. Sharpe is famous and has power. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a power imbalance between a 19, 22-year-old to a 50-something-year-old man. Okay. Plaintiff and Sharpe saw each other on his terms and on his schedule as often as 4 times a week. Over time, plaintiff began to see Sharpe's true nature. She found him to be dishonest about his whereabouts. He would lie about seeing other women while insisting to her that she and he were exclusive. He often manipulated her, at times being sweet and loving to get what he wanted, and at other times being angry and aggressive to achieve his goals. She discovered other things, that Sharpe was extremely emotional and possessive and uncontrollable temper. He displayed the characteristics of a true narcissist. He yielded his powers, his influence, and his celebrities to control plaintiff and get exactly what he wanted, whenever he wanted it, all the while jealousy guarding what he considered his for himself. All right, let me stop right here. So at this time, she's 19, right? And I'm trying to process this a little bit. All right. At the age of 19, typically people don't like, emotional maturity is just not there, right? If you're not getting something in return from a relationship, especially with the 50-year-old plus man, or woman, whatever the case may be, a 19-year-old typically, has the attention span of a fly. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, because I do have ADHD. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're like with a person that's much older than you, emotional intelligence is just not there, not clicking. So I have to kind of wonder, at this point, yes, I can see that she was being manipulated and all this other stuff, but what made her stay in there, if that makes sense? Because she's got all her youth versus this older man who, he's set in his ways, right? I mean, I'm just putting that out there. The other thing that I really struggle with is that this complaint is also throwing out the words true narcissist. I struggle with people just throwing the word narcissist and just putting a blanket over somebody. It takes away from the actual diagnosis, and you're just painting out characteristics of what you think a narcissist is. And to me, that's dangerous because, it takes away from like true narcissists, the titles, the process of diagnosing somebody. Yeah, so I'm going to put this out here. And I'm not defending Shannon Sharpe. Please note that I'm just pointing out some of the struggles that I already have with like the first couple of paragraphs of this. By October 2024, Sharpe's behavior had grown progressively worse, beyond anything plaintiff had experienced with him before. At this point, he was insistent upon recording their sexual activities, sometimes without her knowledge. Sharpe was also sharing the videos with others without her permission or knowledge. Okay. Sharpe would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do her things. He wanted to do her things that would make no other man want her. Let me stop right here because I want to go back to the part where it says Sharpe was also sharing the videos with others. If you guys remember, I think September of 2024 when Shannon Sharpe had that, activity on IG with a woman by the name of Michelle, and that was recorded, right? And his excuse was it was an accidental live stream. What I've been told, and I don't really go live on IG a lot. I think I've only gone live once, but it's a lot of clicks to get to the live stream of an IG. The other side to this too, right, is that it would make sense to a certain degree what plaintiff is saying here, right? She's saying that he was recording those sexual activities sometimes without her knowledge, right? Which, like, how is it that is it a coincidence that Shannon Sharpe accidentally had this sexual encounter with a person, in 2024, and that was live stream? Like, she's telling us right here that this is something that he does. Then you had this accidental recording that happens, which I still don't believe that there was anything accidental from that. I think that it was very intentional, and I think he was trying to prove a point. There's this thing about the NFL and men trying to prove what is it, masculinity. They're not DLs. They get down, but they don't. They're all about the women, but then they kind of like treat women like shit. Maybe I'm generalizing here, but I'm just kind of throwing this out here. To me, it makes sense that he would be recording things and then maybe sharing things because that's what happened with the other woman, Michelle, who was an accident. I'm just not buying that that was an accident. Two things can be correct at the same time. He could be recording things, and that incident could have not been an accident. But that's just my thought. I have no evidence, just my opinion. Okay, Sharpe would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do her things that would make no other man want her at this point. By this point, Sharpe was no longer able to credibly maintain that the relationship was exclusive. He had at this point accidentally or purposely to advance his career went live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. Pretty sure that was non-accidental, in my opinion. Sharpe flew into a fit of rage when plaintiff noted his infidelity to their relationship or called him out about his extraneous activities. What had once been manipulation, control, and intimidation now became something far more dangerous and sinister. Sharpe made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment. that Sharpe would get what he wanted when he wanted it. In October 2024, Shannon Sharpe violently sexually assaulted and anally AR'd plaintiff 2 different times in Las Vegas, Nevada, blatantly ignoring her request for him to stop. He did it again in January. Plaintiff left Nevada to temporarily escape defendant Shannon Sharpe. She now seeks justice through his actions and other means. Plaintiff seeks compensatory and punitive damages in this matter in excess of 50 million. Okay. So, wow, they got pictures on this lawsuit. Here we go. So, of course, they're wanting the jurisdiction and venue to be in Nevada. Factual allegations related to the case. Defendant Shannon Sharpe is a former NFL superstar and well-known sports media personality. After 14-season career in the NFL, he is considered by some of the most greatest tight ends of all times. He is a 3-time Super Bowl champion and was recently inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Upon retirement, Sharpe transitioned into sports broadcasting, quickly achieving success in the industry. Sharpe spent several years at CBS Sports before moving to Fox, where over a decade he built a reputation for his strong opinion and hot takes. In 2023, Sharpe joined ESPN, where he remains employed today. In addition to working at ESPN First Take, Sharpe hosts his own widely followed podcast, interviewing high-profile athletes, entertainers, and public figures. Sharpe claims he made as much as $6 million from one episode of his podcast and is alleged to be signing a multi-million-dollar deal with the Volume Media Group. It's interesting how they put this out here, basically saying, well, the man's got money. Yeah, he does. Sharpe's legacy extends beyond the field in media, and in one glaring area, it is not good. Sharpe has a documented history of abusing and mistreating women. As an example, he is currently a defendant in a lawsuit before the Supreme Court of New York, facing claims from a woman of intentional infliction of emotional distress, among other allegations. Many of the factual allegations in the New York case are eerily similar to his actions towards plaintiff here. I've heard this too from other lawyer friends that I have that were talking about this. They were saying that that there were some similarities to the case in New York to this one. According to the New York lawsuit, Sharpe forcibly subdued the plaintiff in that case, forcing her to her knees, subjecting her to non-consensual oral S despite her repeated protests. When she resisted, he persisted. He would not take no for an answer. According to the New York lawsuit, the plaintiff therein feared for her safety, just as plaintiff fears for her safety now. The New York lawsuit further alleges that Sharpe escalated to non-consensual vaginal penetration, all while telling her that he would make it so no other man would want her. Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. Is it possible that plaintiff in Las Vegas, Gabriella Zuniga, is saying the same thing that the other person whose lawsuit is already filed is saying? Like, maybe they're just copying and pasting, or do we know that this was said for a fact? Like, that's the thing, is that what do we have here to show for this? That's the problem that we have, especially with the verbal conversations between the two. Is there a recording? And it sounds like, based on Shannon Sharpe's statement, was that this woman, Gabriella Zuniga, is sitting on a recording that she was trying to use against Shannon Sharpe. I'm kind of curious about this recording that she has that apparently has not been turned over to Shannon Sharpe's attorneys. The New York lawsuit further alleges that Sharpe escalated to non-consensual vaginal penetration, all while telling her that he would make it so no man would want her. Their words were apparently not a one-time thing. Plaintiff herein too has heard Sharpe say those exact words to her. In September of 2024, Sharpe live streamed himself on accident having sex with a woman. Upon information, believe he did so on purpose to seek media exposure and to attract social media views and attention. I agree with this statement, my opinion. To live stream himself, he would have had to deliberately swipe right on Instagram to activate the live feed. Sharpe claims it was accidental. However, discreetly recording sex without his partner's knowledge is something he is known to do. He did so with the plaintiff herein. Is there a video of this recording, non-consensual or non-consenting recording? I'm kind of curious. Plaintiff discovered that Sharpe had been secretly recording their sexual encounters without her permission. She confronted him. He dismissed her concerns, claiming the videos were for his personal use. That too was a lie. Upon information and belief, Sharpe on multiple occasions shared the recordings with his friends and associates. At one point, he even forced plaintiff to have sex with him while FaceTiming one of his childhood friends named Bucket. Whenever plaintiff would get up the courage to object to Sharpe's outrageous conduct, which was not often, he would aggressively and angrily put her back in her place. Shannon Sharpe isn't just a sports icon. He's something far worse. He is a flawed, narcissistic individual who has spent years using his fame, power, influence to manipulate, control, subjugate, and violate women. With this suit, plaintiff tends to put an end to his egregious conduct. So January 2023, the beginning of a consensual but deeply manipulative relationship. Sharpe first met plaintiff at a Los Angeles gym in early 2023. Sharpe would deliberately watch Doe in such a way to make sure she knew he was watching her. One day, as plaintiff finished a set and turned around, she found Sharpe standing inches behind her. Sharpe told her he had noticed her at the gym and wondered why she had not introduced herself. This was the first time they spoke. Plaintiff at the time, who had just turned 20 years old, was caught off guard and was face to face with a 54-year-old man she had never met. Plaintiff did not know at the time who Shannon Sharpe was. She did not know what to say nor how to feel about his advances. All right, I have a problem. Let me make sure I understand. So this is page 6. And page 6, she had just turned 20, okay? Right? Plaintiff at that time who had just turned 20 years old. All right, but the first page, she's saying she was 19. See, right here. So we're seeing that in the paragraph, it says at that time, Doe was just 19 years old. I can understand a 19-year-old not knowing who Shannon Sharpe was, but was she 19 or 20? And I know that that's like, well, what's the difference? Well, it's a year difference, guys. I mean, if I'm, a lawyer and I'm going to poke holes at somebody's story, I'm going to talk about the inconsistencies of the complaint. That's what I'm going to do. Not that I'm a lawyer, but I am going to notice, like, okay, are you 20 or 19? Because it matters, right? That being said, though, I can understand where a lot of people don't know who Shannon Sharpe is in their 20s, early 20s. Teens. Some people don't know who some of these football personalities are. Anyways, let's keep going. During their first conversation, Sharpe proposed a challenge, a competition to see who could lean out faster. The prize, if plaintiff won, he would buy her fake tits. Plaintiff was stunned. The implication that she needed or wanted such a thing was wildly inappropriate. Oh, okay. Hearing it from a stranger more than 30 years her senior made it even more disturbing. Throughout their subsequent encounters at the gym, Sharpe made sure plaintiff understood who he was, a celebrity and a TV personality. Over the following weeks, Sharpe made himself unavoidable. He was at the gym when she was. He constantly called and texted her demanding that she come to his Beverly Glen mansion. Plaintiff repeatedly declined and made up excuses to make her seem too busy to see him, but he would not stop. Sharpe would not be deterred. Eventually, plaintiff gave in, but before she could even meet him outside the gym, Sharpe made another demand. She had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. He refused to explain why and would not let her see a copy of the proposed agreement. So if he didn't let you see it, how were you supposed to sign it? I mean, were you supposed to sign it, not read it? Which we've reviewed a lot of the Diddy cases. This is not uncommon, right? Where, depending if you believe the case, don't forget the Jane Doe that was accusing Diddy and Jay-Z. She was 13 years old and made to sign an NDA. There's a lot of people in these civil lawsuits and the Diddy side that have been made to sign NDAs. Whether you believe it or not, it's out there. But um, if I'm understanding this correct, before she could meet him outside of the gym, Sharpe made another demand. She had to sign a non disclosure agreement, an NDA. He refused to explain why and would not let her see a copy of the proposed agreement. So he wasn't going to let you see a copy, but you had to sign it. Okay. He simply insisted that she sign one. Plaintiff refused. After multiple attempts, when he realized she would not cooperate, he finally dropped the issue. Revealed from the start the violent, aggressive, and controlling nature of Shannon Sharpe. The first night plaintiff went to Sharpe's house, the experience was unlike anything she has dealt with before, disturbing, unsettling, and given its subsequent conduct, very illuminating. When plaintiff arrived at the house, Sharpe opened the door to his Beverly Glen mansion without a word. No greeting, no acknowledgement, no small talk. Without so much as looking at plaintiff, he simply turned away from her after opening the door and walked upstairs. Plaintiff hesitated but followed as she did not know what else to do or where else to go. When they reached the bedroom, Sharpe pointed to the bedroom before disappearing into the bathroom, shutting the door behind him. He still had not said a word. Plaintiff sat on the bed, waiting, unsure of what to expect or if she should leave. Roughly 5 minutes later, he finally emerged. But still, he said nothing. Instead, he turned off the lights and laid down on his bed. Plaintiff, uncomfortable, unsure of what to do, lay down as well. For roughly 10 minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, Sharpe placed his hands on plaintiff's neck from behind, pressed his erect thing against her body, and said his first words of the night. I knew from the first time I saw you, I was going to F you. Doe and Sharpe then engaged in oral sex. As they did so, Doe at some point realized Sharpe was using his phone. He was apparently recording her. Plaintiff could see that he was trying to be discreet, but it was obvious what he was doing. She said nothing, scared to confront him for what he might do or say. When it ended, he rolled over and went to sleep. At some point late during the night, Sharpe woke up, grabbed plaintiff by the vajay, and began having sex with her. The next morning, Sharpe woke up roughly at 4 a.m. to shoot a media segment for sports television. He woke plaintiff as well and told her she needed to leave, but he informed her that she had to be back at 9 p.m. exactly. The following night, plaintiff arrived at Sharpe's house at approximately 9:05 p.m., just 5 minutes past the time he had demanded. That moment, he opened the door. Plaintiff experiences rage for the first time. Sharpe immediately launched into a verbal assault. He screamed at plaintiff, berating her for what felt like hours. He accused her of disrespecting him, wasting his time, warned that if she wanted to be with the Shannon Sharpe, she would have to learn obedience. Plaintiff was terrified and feared for her physical safety. Still enraged, Sharpe turned off the lights, grabbed her neck, and just like the night before, began having sexual intercourse with her. The cycle of control, fear, submission became a routine. Yelling at her, controlling her, forcibly grabbing her by the neck, and when he got upset, saying he was going to kill her, and inserting dominance became the norm. Over the next year and a half, plaintiff saw Sharpe at his house as often as 4 times a week. Okay, so they were seeing each other 4 times a week. Sharpe continued to treat her like an object. He continued to control her, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically. He demanded complete control over her time and her body, expecting her to be at his house on his schedule and his command whenever he called. The verbal abuse never stopped. He would berate and degrade plaintiff, just as he had from the beginning. One time specifically, he was yelling at her while there was a firearm visibly in the room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends from her iPhone just in case, but Sharpe saw her doing this. That moment he realized what she was doing. He grabbed her by the neck and told her, if you ever do that again, I will effing kill you. Summer 2024, Sharpe's control turns abusive. The relationship becomes fearful, non-consensual. All right, So this is the non-consensual part. And I think time frames are important. So then if you're saying 2024, this is the summer, we have to kind of compare those messages that Shannon Sharpe shared in his statement through the lawyer. Sharpe's aggression and rage continued to escalate to the point that plaintiff's friend began to fear for her safety. For example, when plaintiff was with her friends, they could hear Sharpe yelling at her over the phone and would ask if she was safe and if she was okay. So I'm sure maybe that's a friend that could be a witness. In the summer of 2024, plaintiff and Sharpe each moved to Las Vegas for their own reason. Sharpe liked to say that plaintiff followed him to Vegas, but that too is a lie. Once in Vegas, Sharpe again insisted the plaintiff sign an NDA. She refused again and again. He persisted. But after enough resistance, he let it go and continued seeing her multiple times a week. His behavior did not change. He remained erratic, controlling, and verbally abusive, all while telling plaintiff that he was committed to a sexually exclusive relationship with her. Then, in September 2024, Sharpe humiliated plaintiff. He live streamed himself having sex with another woman on Instagram for over 1.1 million followers to see. He later made jests of the incident on his podcast, Club Shay Shay, and show Nightcap. But for the plaintiff, it was anything but funny. He had repeatedly assured her that they were in an exclusive relationship, albeit unhealthy and abusive. This was a lie that not only hurt her emotionally, it made her fear for her sexual health and risks of sexually transmitted diseases. At that point, plaintiff began to pull away from Sharpe. She stopped answering his phone calls and stopped telling him where she was when he would demand to know. Plaintiff's feeble attempts at freedom and independence further upset Sharpe. He began flooding her phone with calls demanding to know where she was. He called relentlessly multiple times per hour. The harassment became so unbearable, plaintiff frequently began leaving Nevada, determined to cut off communication, resist his efforts to control her, and attempt to reclaim some control of her life. It took courage for plaintiff to make this effort. She remained terrified even though she was thousands of miles away. Sharpe simply would not accept independence or freedom for plaintiff. In October 2024, just after plaintiff returned from Europe, Sharpe's behavior became more angry, aggressive, and now violent. All right, so here we have October 6, 2024. Now, these are timelines. And again, I think timelines are important because if you're going by the statement that Shannon Sharpe's lawyers made with these, baby gravy statements and I want to have your baby type of thing, I mean, it's a little interesting. October 6, 2024, Sharpe sexually assaults and R's plaintiff and threatens, I'm going to make it so no man will want you again. On October 6, 2024, plaintiff was working out at a Nevada gym. Following her usual routine as she works out, she saw Sharpe aggressively approach her. She could tell by his look, the way he moved quickly towards her, that he was furious for being ignored. As soon as he got close, he told her, sit the fuck down or I'm going to kill you. Plaintiff refused. I don't want to talk to you. You cheated on me. His response was dismissive and controlling as usual. You don't have a choice. Sharpe demanded that they talk in private. Again, plaintiff told him no. She made it clear she did not want to talk to him, be alone with him, or want him coming to her home. But Sharpe didn't care. He never took no for an answer. Sharpe forced plaintiff under threat to get into his car and go to her house. Once Sharpe was inside her apartment, plaintiff tried to keep the conversation in the living room, but Sharpe refused. He demanded they go to the bedroom. She said no. He didn't listen, nor did he care. Once inside the bedroom, Sharpe grabbed her from behind and forcibly positioned her to perform oral sex. He held her in a place and then forced her to begin performing. He became even angrier and said, you've disrespected me so much. I'm going to punish this asshole. I'm going to make it so no man will want you again. Plaintiff at this point was crying and sobbing. Tears streamed down her face as Sharpe repositioned her and took her from behind, inserted her thing in her anus. As he forcibly anally R'd her, he said, turn around and look at me. Sharp grabbed her head, forced her to look at him as she saw him. He said at this point, "Look at this. Look at my arm. I've got chills. That's how good this is." Shannon Sharpe forced himself on plaintiff and ardor despite her sobbing in agony. As it happens, he told her in that moment as she was crying that the experience was so good it was giving him chills. Sharpe's behavior demonstrated that he believed plaintiff to be his personal property, possession, and owned by him. He also believed that the law did not apply to him, that he could take what he wanted, and that no one could or would stop him. He was and is wrong. Um, and I'm wondering, did she go to the police? What did she do after this? And this is just an honest question. Now we are in January of 2025. January 2025, Sharp sexually assaults an R's plaintiff, ignoring her screams and refusing to wear a condom. Now, again, remember the message that Shannon Sharp's lawyers shared. It was January 1st of 2025, this year. Something about having babies or something. Y'all, she said that she was sexually assaulted in January, and here's some text messages negotiating a price per each ass cheek for the ass cheeks. 25 for an ass cheek. Like, this is not okay, guys. This sets people that have been victimized by industry folks back. Tony Buzbee, what the fuck? Anyways, let's keep going. On January 2nd, 2025, Sharp told plaintiff he wanted to see her. So this is January 2nd. Sharp persisted and reminded plaintiff that he had a combined Christmas and birthday gift to give her, as he previously promised her a gift. She ultimately allowed him to come over to the apartment. She regrets that decision. Once inside her apartment, Sharp began undressing. Plaintiff firmly stated multiple times that they would not have sex without protection, demanding that he wear a condom. She knew that in the past he refused to ever use condoms and believed that her demand would stop him from having sex with her. But although he refused to use a condom, he still insisted on sex. She tried to resist him. She screamed. She had already expressed concern for her safety, knowing that he had been involved with other women, increasing the risk of transmitting the disease. The more she begged, Sharp became more aggressive and made it clear he would not wear a condom and he was going to have his way with her. Sharp grabbed her, pulling her around and positioning her to perform oral sex, which lasted roughly for 2 minutes. Then Sharp repositioned her and roughly forced himself inside her. Plaintiff never stopped demanding and begging that he stopped or put a condom. Sharp ignored her. As soon as he penetrated her, plaintiff screamed and sobbed. Her cries for help did nothing to stop Sharp. The assault lasted roughly 10 minutes, ending only when Sharp ejaculated inside her. Plaintiff cried and begged repeatedly for him to stop. Plaintiff left Nevada after the assault. Plaintiff brings these causes of actions in his honorable court to recover damages as outlined below. It is imperative that Shannon Sharpe and those like him are held accountable for their actions to prevent them from engaging in further sexual assault and sodomy and harming future victims. So here is just some of the class actions: assault, sexual assault, battery, and sexual battery. This is a first claim. Second claim, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and then demand for jury. 10 million for general damages in the sum in excess of 10 million, special damages 10 million, punitive damages 20 million, statutory penalties 10 million, and that is what they are asking. 13-page complaint. I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation. Do you believe her? Do you not believe her? Do you have your questions? Do you have your doubts? And again, like, I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion, however they feel. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out. Bye, guys.